You know what I realized, which is really easy to do? Like, when you open up a podcast or a YouTube video or something, and the hosts go like, hey! Like, it's so easy to come off as really disingenuous. Just be like, hey, 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 hey. It's exciting, but we're not. Like...
Yeah. Oh my God. I got called out in a stream one time. We were playing Among Us, and like, I was focusing on something else. I think I was focusing on like where I was in the map. Yeah. So that if anybody called me out, I could like be like, I'm here because I'm terrible for
trying to learn, yeah.
And I always wind up looking sus because I can never say where I am. So somebody was saying something in the voice chat, and because I'm the host, I'm trying to like be hosty but like also pay attention at the same time and like not get killed.
Naturally.
And somebody made a joke and I went and our friend Spider went, that was so fucking fake. That was such a fake laugh. Like,
yeah, like that's like I heard you make a joke.
Yeah.
And like you didn't really hear what the joke was.
Yeah.
But you understand that a joke was being made. So you're just kind of like
yeah, like a laugh track. Like I've learned how to be a laugh track in my own head.
You learn that in retail.
You do. You also learn that by being a woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Take it to that place.
Am I wrong, ladies?
Yeah, ladies, if you're listening to the Chill Spot podcast, let us know in the comments below. Have you learned to change the way you are socially because you're a woman?
The answer is yes. You don't have to run a poll. Like the answer is yes. Sorry, bud. Welcome to it. Actually, a quote that I keep in my head all the time. Amy Poehler was like accepting some award, and she like said her whole speech, and she was like, "And ladies, if a man says something that's not funny, you don't have to laugh." Mm-hmm. And I was like, it really is that simple.
Right. Did Amy Poehler change your life that day?
Yeah, it really is that simple. And I like remembered, like I've been like conditioned, or I've conditioned myself at least, to laugh at men's jokes no matter what they say, even if I don't like. They can tell that I'm being fake, obviously, as like evidenced by that day playing Among Us. But I, at the very least, I've been conditioned to give them at least a little like, yeah, like at the very least. Whereas I have had men let me fall on I have had men tell me straight up, that's not funny, what you just said. Wow. It's not funny at all. Actually, someone that we went to theater school with, like I can tell you off mic, but like he's very forthcoming with his opinions, and like we were just fucking around, like we weren't even like coming up with a performance or anything like that. In the fucking
green room or something.
Yeah, we were just joking, and he was like, "I don't think that's very funny."
Wow.
Like I don't think that that's a well composed joke. I don't think that works. I don't think that that's funny.
I think I know who that person is.
And I was like, okay, man, like leave me alone. But like they'll let you fall flat on your face. Like you are not conditioned to laugh at things out of politeness. Mm-hmm. You're conditioned to laugh at things that you think are funny. You're allowed to go there.
Which is funny because I'm always of the opinion, like I'm not, as we've mentioned many times in the podcast before, like you and I are a couple of introverts, but I think one thing that you and I are good at is I can't speak for every time, but like I think we're pretty aware of not creating awkward social situations. Yeah. And like if someone tells an uncomfortable or unfunny or stupid joke, like I'll also just be like, yeah, to acknowledge like, yeah, I heard you, because I'm not trying to make it awkward. Yeah. Right. And like I'm always the person trying not to make an awkward situation.
Yeah. That's true. Very true. But we gotta let people fall. If people can let me flounder, then I gotta start letting other people flounder. Yeah. Fuck y'all.
Someone's like, someone says some like orange you're glad and say banana joke, and we're like, hey, that's not fucking funny, man.
Or just give them dead air.
Yeah.
Just like, sorry, you're bombing. Mm. Every comedian has to bomb.
It's like, so you watch The Mandalorian?
Hard change of topic.
Baby Yoda's pretty cute.
Just go right over there.
Where's that pizza?
How about that local sports team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Marlies. and like that guy's like crying in the corner now because no one laughed at his joke. See, there was a laugh right there. You didn't think that was funny just now?
Actually, I did think that was funny.
Oh, okay.
You thought that was that? You think that? You think that's my fake laugh?
I mean, like I'm sort of getting a gear of it now. Like I'm trying to listen for it. You know. Mm-hmm. Like,
No, I actually thought that was funny.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think you're funny, and I
Thank
laugh at
you.
your jokes.
I think you're funny too.
Thank you.
That's why I laughed at your
she doesn't.
jokes.
She doesn't think I'm funny.
I just laughed at your jokes, you dork.
Oh,
But I mentioned that guy we went to theater school with.
Mhm.
Cam and I are a couple of theater school graduates. We survived the system.
Somehow didn't know that. 93
And-
episodes into this podcast.
Yeah. But we wanted to talk about theater school today. I think that as artists, it's something that we go back and forth about, which is like, do I need to go to school? Do I need to go back to school?
Mhm.
Like, does it even matter? What's the point of the whole thing?
Right, because yeah, and in this conversation, we're sort of looping in like art schools in general. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about our personal
Yeah.
experiences at theater school.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's about art school.
And
Well,
like
then-
I've heard from people who went to different kinds of art schools, visual art school and that's about it.
yeah, I'm sure there's music schools.
That's sorry. I was thinking like
Dance
I was thinking
schools.
like performance art and then visual art and like music as a
There is
performance art.
theater and comic books,
No.
and that's fucking it. There's no music or dancing.
No, I consider music to be a performance art, and then there's visual art. So like I was kind of lumping music in with like theater and like performance art.
Sure.
But yeah, no, like you can go to theater school, music school, art school. A lot of us have the same like similar complaints, but also like similar like pros.
Experiences.
We're
Yeah.
gonna try and keep it on the positive side, just because we have said out loud on this podcast before where we went to school, and like some shit you just gotta take to your grave. I'm
And listen,
sorry.
I own a mug from that school, and
You
like,
can-
am I really gonna shit talk this? It's on my mug.
You can listen to the podcast where we diss all of our former theater school professors on our Patreon. Pay $5 a month to watch us dunk on a guy with a PhD.
We drop names and addresses, folks. Dox it up. So, as someone who's graduated from a theater program at a pristine Ivy League Canadian university, Sam,
Sugar.
what do you feel on the other side in terms of like, do you think that our art school and theater school is necessary?
No, it's really not.
See, I don't think it's necessary either, but I don't
Extremely helpful.
regret going.
No, not
No.
even a little bit.
Like, it's
I
one
would
of
do
those
it again.
things. It's one of those things where it's like, sure, you could just jump into the industry and like start auditioning and try to work your way up from there, but you're gonna miss out on a lot of the streamlining that like a focused art school would help you with.
Yeah.
Right. A good art school, in my opinion, would help teach you concrete foundational skills
Mhm.
of which to build your artistic identity
Mhm.
and become a better artist.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least that's what I tell myself when I'm trying to reconcile with the thousands of dollars that I spent.
And even on some of the, because like we saw a lot of stuff in theater school that we did not like.
Yeah.
I would
Most of it.
argue. I think I genuinely liked like two or three shows that I had to see for university purposes. The rest of them, like, I've either forgotten or they were just straight up bad, like
Yeah.
amateur or like
Fucking amateur hour.
no,
over
seriously, fuck. I won't mention the name of the show, but I had to see a show for a class one time. It was part of a festival, but I had to see that specific show.
Here. Mhm.
And like I attended like the talk back afterwards, and it was a show that had to do with a specific culture,
Sure.
and nobody in the play I learned afterwards was from that culture. And it's like,
What is up with that, man?
What the fuck?
Like, come on.
who? And like the person who wrote it wasn't from that culture either, so it wasn't even like no one from the culture that was the subject of the show was involved at
Yeah.
all in the making of the show. So like whenever we asked a question about like, well, how do people feel about this? How do blah blah blah? How do you think this impacts blah blah blah? They're like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? You
Yeah.
just acted in a show. It's bad. Like that's a bad show.
Mhm, it is.
So-
it's poorly dramaturged.
I saw some garbage, but I also had the privilege of seeing some very, very well made shows.
Yeah.
It kind of depended on the professor who was assigning the show in the first place. It's also like, so that particular example was just like a bad call overall, but sometimes you just don't like the form of art that a professor likes.
Of course, yeah.
So they're
It's all
going to recommend,
subjective.
like, I had a professor who loved devised work. I don't super love devised work or like performance art, as some people know it as. It's not the same thing.
Should we
but, like,
maybe go in like, so what devised work and what Sam's example
talking
here
about, yeah.
is like theater that you would watch out in a specific place.
No, that's site-specific theater. Devised work is work that was freshly created during the creation
Oh,
process.
okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had it backwards.
Yeah, it often gets tied in with sort of like performance art because often devised work and site-specific work tend to go hand in hand because people like to take their new, fresh, creative stuff out to unconventional venues.
Yeah.
Like outside of a stage, they'll do it on the street, they'll do it in a park, they'll do it, in a political office.
Yeah, sure.
Devised
Who
artists,
does that, Sam?
Devised artists love to go to, political offices.
Yeah, of the two people in this room, you've performed in a political office.
Yeah. But that was really good, and it was a scripted show. I did a performance of the vagina monologues in Kitchener City Hall, which was really, really
and it was
cool.
it was a good performance.
It was really good.
I've never seen the vagina monologues before, and I gotta say, if you can go see them, go see them.
Oh, highly recommend
It's
it.
still to this day quite relevant.
Yep. And like it's cool because the playwright made it a rule: if you're going to perform her piece, you can perform it royalty free only on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, if you and the kids are ever bored one night, head on down to your local theater and watch the vagina monologues.
But yeah, so like I had a professor who was super into devised work, performance art, and site-specific theater. Now, I've seen good site-specific theater. Site-specific theater is just taking a story and putting it in a different place. So like I saw a play about an art piece in an art gallery in an art gallery.
And that was great. That's a great show.
It was so good.
Yeah.
There's like site-specific work doesn't have to be weird and disruptive and annoying and, overwhelming to its audience. It can just be, you can just put a play that you wrote in an unconventional space.
Yeah.
That's allowed.
Well, I mean, and it has to go with like, and I'm trying to avoid specifics, right? I don't want to like necessarily talk about one particular person.
Yeah.
But depending on the professors you have in a theater school, art school environment, what you learn is going to be colored by what they know.
Yes.
Right? And that's sort of the moral of the story, where it's like, what you and I think a lot of people our age bracket sort of realize is that like, we're not terribly interested in the kind of theater that a lot of our professors were interested in.
Yeah.
Now, which isn't to say that we didn't learn lessons. We didn't learn valuable skills.
Not at all.
But if anything, there's actually, to put a positive spin on it, I think by doing something for sure you don't want to do, that is something you now solidify within yourself. Now you can go like, oh, so I want to do pretty much anything else. Yeah.
But it does clarify some things. You're like, okay, now I know what arenas I don't want to play in. Well, what else is out there? And then you are encouraged to look outwards. And that's fine. That's fun. You'll learn.
But in terms of the original question, no, I do not think art school is necessary.
No.
I think you really could just jump into the arts if you so wish.
Yeah.
However, I think that you would probably have a hard time.
Yeah.
Honestly, because like another big thing you learn from art school is connections.
Resources. Art school gives you resources. And this is definitely, we can talk about privilege, having the privilege to be able to attend art school.
It's glass ceiling, right?
Like I love something I love about art is that yes, you don't have to go to school to learn how to do it. There's no right or wrong answer. So therefore anybody can participate in it and potentially do well. However, the conveyor belt kind of speeds itself up a little bit when you go to art school because it brings the people who can best facilitate your work to you, directly to you.
Yeah.
I had people from local theater companies teach classes at my school and I met them. And then, through class, you learn about their work and what they do. And that's literally how I got my first ever theater job.
Yeah.
And it's spurred me on to so many other things because that person knew another local artist who I got along with, and then they gave me a job that I'm working right now. And it just sort of, the snowball builds and builds and builds from there. Don't know how quickly I would have gotten there if not for theater school. The resources are, for me, the best part about theater school and why I maintain that I would recommend it to anybody who can access it.
I totally agree. I mean, it's also worth saying that like theater's pretty specific in terms like, because theater is so not online or like available.
Yeah.
Like you can go to like Actors Access and like apply to be in films and shit that people like throw up on, or like Casting Call Club or fucking, what's another one, like Star Now or something, right? But like theater shows, and theater is so word of mouth. Yeah. And the only way you're really going to get into the theater industry is to go to a city with a good theater infrastructure. Yep. Go to an institution there, meet some of the local theater artists, and then like either like root down or live in that city for a while. Yep. because like, because you live in Kitchener, where
Yeah.
in the university where we went is in Waterloo.
Mhm.
You know, put the pieces together, people. And
We went to the University of Waterloo. We've said it on this podcast.
yeah, we're pretty open
before.
about it.
Yeah.
I talked about the mug.
Yeah.
And the thing is that like, yeah, you just need to be in the community, right?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's very theater specific.
We've talked about this in theater school before too, where theater exists, like the liveness of theater is the beauty of it, but it's also like the most like handicapped part of it, because it exists for that space and time. If a show is 90 minutes, it exists for 90 minutes, and the people who you see that show with, that you form a kind of community as an audience, and that community only exists for 90 minutes. So unless you're like going to shows, meeting people, sticking around for talkbacks, and staying in that world a little bit long enough to make connections, you're SOL.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so, yeah, networking in theater. My mom and your mom are always telling us, you gotta network. I'm like, how?
Yeah. It's like, I know that, but
like the world of business has networking events, which I've heard are its own beast. But regardless, people will like hold networking events where it's just like, okay, are you a businessman? Come to this room at this time and like just talk to people about what you do for 2 hours and see if you can get anything from it. Theater is like, so I joined a Facebook group and there was a job that was perfect for me, but I didn't see it until 53 minutes too late, and now they have all the people that they need on it. So there goes that opportunity, I guess.
Yeah. You know what we need? We need like networking speed dating things for theater.
Oh my God. It can be like the artistic director of this theater that I've been dying to work at was at a show that I went to, but wasn't at the exact same show on the same day that I went to it. So I missed that opportunity. And it's like, how the hell are you supposed to know that? How are you supposed to know who's going to be where on any given date at any given time?
Well, you got to add him on Facebook, and then you got to get his geotag, and then wherever he goes, you have to go to the grocery store when he's there and say, "Hey, excuse me, can I get the onions? Oh, by the way, are you the director of the Shit Flakes?
The Shit Flakes?
Over at the registry?
What kind of theater does the Shit Flakes make? What is their like mission statement?
The artistic director of the Shit Flakes?
Yeah.
To make you as uncomfortable as possible.
Okay.
To the point where there's actually points of the show where there's audience participation where someone can go up on stage and get tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like the show, you're encouraged to dehydrate your poop beforehand and just like throw little flakes of it.
Yeah.
At the theater. And it's a whole thing about putting yourself on stage if you don't see yourself represented in the media that you're currently watching.
Yeah. So and they have
That's it.
they have a complaints/suggestions box outside of the door. And at the end of every show, the director comes out with the box and takes a big shit in it.
Yeah.
And throws it into the audience.
That's performance art, guys.
For someone to take home.
Yeah.
As a prize for that night.
That's it. The Shit Flakes is a intersectional, multidisciplinary theater company who encourage, like, through the act of scat performance.
Scat performance.
A term that they defined.
Yeah.
People can put their selves onto stage via scat.
Yeah. You and I.
Dehydrated scat.
You and I in a coffee shop, dressed like total hipsters, talking to each other like, no, they take scatting to a whole new level. You have no idea. It's the next wave of scatting.
We, like, found a way to, like, decompose poop into hops, and we make our own craft beer in the lobby, and you're encouraged to buy it because it supports like the theater's own ecosystem.
Yeah.
Listen, this is a parody, but like theater companies like pull this shit.
A micro piss.
Yeah. A micro piss. That's like a shot you can drink. You can have shit beer or like micro piss shots.
Shit beer? Do you mean Budweiser? Oh! Nah, Budweiser. I don't give a shit. I don't like or dislike Budweiser. I don't drink, so you know that's how that goes.
But listen, like this is why I hate performance art, because like you go to a performance art piece and like it's like a guy rubbing his face in Elmer's glue that has been spray painted red, and it's supposed to symbolize, and then you read the program and you're like, Thomas Paine is a multidisciplinary, intergalactic species known as FEB. And FEB's mission is to highlight the struggle of the indigenous populations in the Americas. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I wish that was in the show.
What the fuck am I watching? I didn't get any of that.
He's rubbing Elmer's glue on his face, dressed up like Elmer Fudd.
Yeah.
And the program, you open it up and it's just wet black ink, like just big squares, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I was hoping I'd learn something.
And then like
from
people
this.
complain about their like clothes getting stained by these programs, and then like the theater company comes up and is like, "You just don't support the message, man. You just don't understand.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, stop complaining to the programs." Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my god.
And the show
just,
ends
like,
with Elmer Fudd's laugh like echoing in the stage.
Just like stop abusing me.
Yeah.
And they're like, abusing the audience is part of the art. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I don't want that. And it's like.
Oh my god.
It's called Wabbit season. Suffering by Elmer Fudd. He didn't have much work after Looney Tunes because they took his gun away, so he had to go.
He became a performance artist.
Performance artist.
He was a homeless man who turned into a performance artist, and then like he doesn't want to forget his time spent on the streets, so his theater exclusively takes place there, and he's like seen as like super brave for like doing it, and then like fucking Marina Abramovich like does a piece with him where she like sucks his dick through a straw.
Yeah.
And it's just
I was hunting wabbits. And now I'm hunting meaning. And it's like ting ting ting.
They do it in the financial district of whatever town they're in. Or city, I guess. They go to like major cities and like they're like, we're disrupting the system. And I'm like, you're being annoying.
This is Elmer Fudd from Looney Tunes.
You're in the way.
Yeah.
Stop, like, why do all of your performances take place in like the Tim Hortons at the bottom of every single financial building? Like, this is not the space.
Yeah. We're kind of straying from our theater school.
Yeah.
But like this is that's part of the reason why like
I saw shit like this.
That's the thing,
and
right?
I was like, this is not what I want.
Well, I understand.
This is not what I want to make.
I understand why art can sometimes afford to be disruptive.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think disruptive art is wholly bad. But
No.
I think you need to pick who you want to disrupt.
Yeah.
Right? If you go into a Starbucks and your whole performance is like, capitalist is pigs, and I'm going to fuck this live pig in the middle of this Starbucks.
You release like 50 feral hogs into a Starbucks.
A stampede of boars just they're like ray. Ah! You know, and it's like these patrons didn't like they're not part of the fucking capitalist machine.
Like, like they can't consent to that too. That's my thing too about like performance art is that like you want to bring it to the masses, but like not everybody can like consent to the insanity that you're about to unleash on them.
Yeah.
And some people are like, that's the point, man. And I'm like, that's so fucked up though.
That's really dumb.
I'm really not. And I learned that I am not okay with that. And that is not how I want to get my message across through my art. I certainly want to disrupt, but I think that some people, some theater makers, take the word disrupt way too literally.
And this is not a comment on anyone specifically. This is
not
this
at
is
all.
a very general, broad opinion on this kind of theater that Sam and I don't necessarily gel with.
Yeah.
But
Sam, but it was very valuable.
You learned that lesson in theater school.
Yeah.
What are some other lessons you learned in theater school?
Something that I really loved and appreciated about the University of Waterloo, and I think that it's something that a lot of students who start out at that school don't understand, because like the theater and performance department at UW tends to be very small. They tend to have very small class sizes.
Most theater programs are small.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, like they're certainly not enormous.
Well, small by comparison. Like you compare it to like science or math,
or like engineering or something like that. But very intimate, and
a better word for it.
Like I've taken classes with like 10 people in it. And something that I think a lot of new students in that specific program don't understand is that it's not a conservatory.
Yes.
So, like you can take courses specialized in a certain skill, a certain aspect of theater that you're interested in, but what they're really focusing on is producing artists who have a general scope of everything that it takes.
Process.
Yeah, the entire process of creating a show from, conception. You've got we had the more academic classes that were like theory based, and we examined a lot of like ideas and thinkers in the theater world from over time, right up to technical stuff, like literally how to hang a light and the different kinds of lights and gels and gobos and all of this stuff. So, and like projection and sound as well. It's not just lights. I tend to use lights because that was the one that scared me the most personally. So that's like the first thing I go to when I think of like difficult.
Mm-hmm.
They really wanted you to have that whole scope. And some people just want to focus on, they're like, oh, well, like I love musicals. I just want to like do musical theater.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's all well and good. But I really valued UW for giving me an appreciation for the entire perspective, even if I'm not necessarily good at it, because it's like now that I'm working on my own projects, I feel way more equipped
100%
to be able to I understand that it's hard, but I at least know I know a little bit more about what I'm getting into. I don't think you can ever be fully prepared when it comes to making your own art, your own play, your own movie, your own whatever.
Everybody flounders a little bit.
But I think I would argue that I would know more than the average Joe because of the education that UW gave me. I really appreciate it for that.
You do have a degree in this. It's funny because real quick, I want to comment on what I just said and then I'll answer the question. But it's like, a lot of people, a lot of artists, myself included at times, tend to diminish things like art degrees, right? Because, it's not, you can't use an art degree to walk into, say, a job like you would if you were an engineer or a doctor or whatever, right? Like it doesn't look the same. So a lot of people tend to write off your sort of credentials. But it's like what you just said, the whole idea of like, I think I'm more equipped to make a theater show. It's like, well, of course you are. You spent 5 or so years curating those skills and experiences.
Yeah, I think it also equipped me for like the current state of the industry where you can't just be one thing. You need to be a multi-hyphenate, and everybody that not all this staff, because they were very like they had been able to be focused in their lane because they taught it, but a lot of people on staff and a part of the faculty at UW can do more than one thing.
Multifaceted,
Yeah, sure. Like this guy's a really good carpenter, but he can also, hang a light. It's really, really cool. Or like, this person is a project manager now, but she used to be a dancer. Like she can dance.
Yes.
And it's evident in that aspect. So watching the faculty and staff at UW and seeing all the different things, all the different hats that they were able to wear, I think prepared me for the industry the way that it is now.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate them for that.
My answer is going to be a little boring because I fucking fully agree with you.
Yeah.
I've already said in the previous podcast what I've sort of learned in terms of art school, in terms of like concrete artist skills. I think that going to UW has sort of broadened my lens into how creative processes go. Like in terms of like, we talked about this actually in a now dormant whatever we want video, where the way I break down text to take on a character, and like I've applied that process, the idea of breaking things down into specific things, for all of my creative processes, and that is something so valuable that I would not have gotten if I didn't go to University of Waterloo.
Absolutely.
And but however, my real answer is definitely going to be what you said, which is like, there is nothing more valuable, especially as a theater maker, to understand both sides of the coin of the creative process.
100%.
And if you move into film or TV or even music or dancing, that perspective of understanding how a show needs to be creatively fulfilled and how a show needs to be technically realized are so important.
Yeah.
And like it'll help you as an artist grow.
Absolutely.
Because how many actors do you know that just are totally dead to the tech side of things?
Yeah.
And get in the way and are annoying and like don't have any modicum of understanding.
Yeah.
Versus people who were light people, who were sound people, who are now actors, who do shit like, the director stops you on Tech Week and goes, hey, they got to figure something out. And they go, that's fine. Versus like, ugh. Like, I'll be honest with you. Little rant here. Something that always bothered me about, university and theater school is that all of the actors I knew in our age bracket, I'm calling you all out, used to bitch about Tech Week. Now, Tech Week is not that bad. Y'all need to grow up.
We're getting into it.
Because Tech Week, you know what Tech Week is? Tech Week is 1 week that the tech people get to make the show look good.
Yeah.
And you should be thankful that you're a part of that process. Because every actor I've ever met, aside from professional ones, like, always bitch, oh, so boring, oh,
people
my
at our
feet
school
hurt.
tended to complain about Tech Week.
And it's like, fuck off. How about we've had months to prepare these creative performances, and the technicians have a week. Help them out. And rant.
Your father's not mad, dear. He's just disappointed.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, whenever you go on these rants, and like, first of all, you're so right.
Thank you.
Like, you were right, and I agree with you. But I love it when you go off about these rants, because then, like, I'm just left here to. I feel like I have to come out with like the most calm voice, like the nicest voice, because like after a shout down like that, you just want to be like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a moment.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel our feelings, and we're gonna process.
Yeah.
And we're going to diffuse, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about this afterwards.
Your father is just disappointed. We're still having garlic bread tonight. Like, it's not a big deal. I know.
No, he doesn't hate you. He doesn't. No, your father doesn't hate you.
He's
he
just
loves
a little
you.
upset.
That's why he's so passionate, because he loves you.
And then I visit every person we went to theater school with in their room later, and I'm like, hey, kiddo, listen, I want to talk to you. Dad blew his top tonight. And that wasn't cool of me. But I want you to understand that what you did upset me. And I love you, and I'll always love you. And then me and
I'm standing there at the door frame, like, nodding my head. Just standing there, making sure that everything goes all right. And then I close the door, and I, like, raise my eyebrows at you and, like blow you a kiss, and then, like, close the door goodnight.
Yeah. And then the next morning, I make everyone hot chocolate. As a final, like,
just to be like,
everything is okay. Yes, I was upset. Yes, what you did upset me, but I'll always love you, kiddo. And me and the 30 people we went to school with all at the same time. Yeah, but I want to say that wasn't calling out anyone in specific. It was just something I noticed a lot.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest with you, I also fell prey to, because as an impressionable man, a young man, all you know is the people around you, and I was being told that Tech Week is a drag. Yeah. So I went into it with the mindset of it being a drag.
Yeah, people before your first Tech Week go, "Aw, man, are you ready for Tech Week? It's going to be so hard." And
then I did, like, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been a part of many Tech Weeks since then, and y'all are babies. Like, it's basically really not that bad.
You know what it is that, like, since it's for technicians, like, there's not a lot of, like, acting. So you've done all this work and I'm not sympathizing by any means, but...
You better not.
You've done all of this work to memorize your lines, to embody the physicality of the character, to learn your blocking, and then you get it all in your head, and they're like, okay, don't do any of that, just stand there, don't move, and then like half an hour passes, and like you start getting tired, and then you like lean over a little bit, and they're like, can you stand up straight, please?
Yeah.
Can you stand up straight? The lighting person needs to see what you look like in that light right there, and you're like, oh, but you're being a baby.
Yeah, grow up.
Like,
how about when you act, I'm not going to go on, but how about when you act, acting is all about being present. And in Tech Week, you need to be present because they're not going to get the light right if you're fucking around.
Yeah.
So learn where your light is.
Yeah.
And I swear to God.
Also, just be a team player.
If you move from that light, I'm going to come from backstage and put your head so far up your ass, you'll smell what you had for breakfast that morning.
Oh, tell him, Cam.
I'm done with divas, man.
Yeah.
I've always had a problem with divas in acting, and both in theater school and out of theater school.
Yeah.
And listen, bro.
Or just like immaturity, like for me, sometimes not being able to handle Tech Week is just like you get fidgety and then you start acting like a child. You start looking over at your friends and like making stupid faces. You're not paying attention when someone's talking to you and you're impossible to get a hold of in the room. People are doing this, snapping in your face to try and like get your attention to look over there because you're not paying attention because you're acting like a 5-year-old.
Thank you.
Who's being made to wait in line at the bank.
That's like, how I feel.
Except you're 21 years old and someone's talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I will never forget. I don't remember what production it was specifically, but there was a production with a large cast where like many times the director had to turn around and be like, hey, you guys mind like not talking?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Don't talk.
You're not
You can't
14
talk.
anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to put on a show here.
Yeah, like you can stand still and be quiet for a couple of minutes.
I don't know about you, Sam, but when I was in theater school, also like to put a final cap on that question, broad spectrum of both sides, I think, is the most valuable thing I learned in theater school.
Yes.
And I think you would agree.
Yeah.
Another thing that is valuable to learn in theater school is listening, paying attention. If you're not on stage,
Active listening.
that doesn't mean you get to fuck about it. I mean, yeah, it doesn't mean you don't have to fucking like
sit up straight with your hands tied together.
She's brilliant, so brilliant.
And like super invested in every single syllable
I agree.
that's being said.
Like that's
yes, good point. Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
However, if you are waiting to go on to work with the director, or perhaps you have just gone on to go with the director, you can sit in the audience and pay attention and be quiet, because you'll probably learn something.
Yeah. Also,
are you okay?
Fucking shit. No, I'm just it's bringing up memories. I'm not going to name specific memories. Like,
dox them.
Listen, we can talk shit when the mics are off, but
sure.
I cannot stand it not even when you're in tech week, in rehearsal, okay? Rehearsal. And you're working on a scene, but the director is talking to one person, one actor, and they're having a conversation about the character and what's going on in that scene and how they're thinking about it. And then say there's like 4 other people on stage, the director's only talking to one person, and the 3 people are off to the side, dicking around, giggling and talking and carrying on while the director is trying to have a conversation. Man, shut up.
Yeah, honestly.
This does affect you too, whether you know it or not. This conversation affects you and how your character goes on in the scene.
100%.
Do you maybe want to listen? Maybe you're even more a part of it than you think that you are. But you just think, oh, well, this doesn't involve me, so I'm just going to tap out completely.
Yeah, well, it's also like a director is not going to talk to an actor for 40 minutes. Like, you're going to talk for 2 to 5 minutes, so stay in character. You're about to do the scene again.
Yeah.
What do you, I understand, listen. If you're in high school, part of a drama club, or theater program, I can't expect this kind of maturity from someone like that, because I didn't even do that when I was in school. However, when you're in university for theater, for film, for TV, for acting,
paying hundreds of thousands of dollars.
A valuable skill that you will learn in school is professionalism. And if you want to be a professional, you have to learn how to be professional.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And being professional is staying in the moment, staying present, staying a character, not goofing off with your friends. I'm not saying there's no room for that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's called a play for a reason. You're supposed to have fun, I think, personally. But you shouldn't be disruptive.
No.
Never.
And if anything, professionalism trumps talent.
100%.
Out in the real world, all the time.
Why do you think we never get jobs?
I mean, I haven't.
I'm kidding. Yeah, Sam is far more successful than I am.
No, you're very professional. It's just not your time yet.
One day.
Soon.
Actually, a friend of mine who's a filmmaker, I've worked on with a couple films with him. Actually, he's normally a quite serious fellow. And to his benefit, it helps him with everything he does. And he paid me a very nice comment. He says I'm apparently quite professional on set.
Yeah.
Because I
mean, you do practice what you rant about.
Yeah, typically. Yeah. I try to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
In terms of professionalism, I could practice what I preach in terms of mental health and being happy.
Different topic. Different podcast. Go back to episode 28 or whatever and fucking.
But say back down that. Go listen to us rant about potato chips and pizza and shit.
Yeah.
Okay, same as going. If you didn't go to art school, where would you be right now, 2021, career wise?
Probably.
I know where I'd be.
Yeah.
EB Games. Yeah. I would not be an artist if I didn't go to theater school. 100%.
Yeah.
Because so a valuable thing you learn in theater school, talking about creative process and whatnot, is also how to break into the industry. Now, in my opinion, I think this could be a larger focus. It was a light focus. I'm not going to say it wasn't focused on. It was a light focus. I had a very loose roadmap that I've since had to specify in order to try to get going on my professional career as an artist. If I didn't go to theater school, I'd be floundering. Where do you start? What do you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Where do you go?
Yeah.
Especially somewhere for you where you live, that doesn't have much of an art scene.
No.
Kitchener at least has an art scene.
Kitchener, a way better art scene than Mississauga.
Yeah. So I definitely knew of theater companies. I don't think I would have the gusto to approach any of them. So I think I would still be very much in your shoes.
Yeah.
actually, because like I've mentioned before, I went to school for social work before breaking down.
For having a meltdown, yeah.
For having a meltdown and going to theater school. I would have just slept through social work and been trying to find a job in the social work field, even though I hated it and like would have never admitted to myself that it's not something that I wanted to do. You know, I would have just I would have been one of those kids who like wants to be a painter, but their parents make them go to medical school and they become a doctor.
Right.
You know, they just become a fucking doctor.
You know, on a whim one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you would have had, Sam? Probably a 3,000 square foot house.
I don't care. I would rather be here. Thinking about I have such a low tolerance for forcing myself to do something indefinitely that I don't like. You know, it's why I quit my job.
Yeah.
And do this now full time. It's why, I mean, for what it's worth, like I think I would have done that with any job that I held, any shitty part-time retail or food service job that I would have had or would have held at this time regardless, because I just can't make myself do things I don't want to do. I'm a huge brat that way.
No, you cannot. Yeah.
If I don't like something, I can make myself do it for a certain amount of time, but that time ends at some point, and I stop, you know?
That's the difference between you and I, where it's like you and I are both people, like we're both like of the opinion that like we're adults. We don't have to do things we don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
Because we're not children.
Yeah.
We're not being led around by the ear by our parents, so we don't have to do things we don't want to do anymore.
And if you're going to force me to do something that I've said I don't like doing, I'm going to be bad at it. I got worse at my job the more I hated it and felt like there was no way out. I just simply got worse at it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in terms of jobs, absolutely. Like, I think that even like, sorry to my managers if you're listening to this, I definitely got more apathetic as time went on, especially near the end. Yeah. Like, I got to the point where it was like, hey, can you like do this before you go home? And I was like, yeah. And then like, I'd look at the clock and like, we're closing in like half an hour. I'd be like, I'm not doing this shit. I'm gonna fucking
or on like a darker note, like I literally break down.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like
because you worked at the Hellscape, Hell Store.
But I think I genuinely, I mean, like that establishment is a hellscape all of its own. But I would have had mental breakdowns regardless, because it's like I think I always would have reached that point where even if I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, if I was doing something I knew I didn't like, I would be breaking down because there's just like no future in sight where I'm happy, you know?
If you were gonna Indigo, you'd be like putting books away.
Just
and you'd
crying.
Like, don't look at me, Ruby Car! And you throw a book across the fucking room.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so if I didn't go to art school, I definitely would not be in art.
No.
Like 100%.
No. And I would be sad.
Well, because of course I'd be sad. Well, I mean, if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know any better. But yeah, because like I was too loosey-goosey at the time. Yeah. All I wanted to do when I graduated high school was be an actor. And then now, like, I don't even really want to be that one kind of actor that I set out to be.
Totally.
At that point, right? So, like, I don't know where I'd be, but it definitely wouldn't be in art.
Yeah.
I probably would have done some theater shows for a couple years and got a job, started making half-decent money, and just fucking be one of these towny folk people who just, like, never leave their hometown and, like live down the road from their parents and have maybe a half-decent apartment or house and get married and have a kid and die.
Buy a bunch of crap, move to Florida and die.
I mean, I don't want to disparage people who do that. Because on some level, I look at, like, grass always greener, right? Yeah. Like, I look at my life now where I'm like, I'm glad to be doing creative stuff. I'm glad to be fulfilling myself, making myself full with my creativity. However, God, Florida's nice this time of year.
I mean, it's also sinking because of climate change, so...
Right.
Maybe it's for the better.
And all the alligators. You know, they're just going to come onto the land.
All the gators.
Gators.
Yep. You want to pet... Actually, I do want to pet gator.
If you didn't go to art school, do you think that you would have done something else? Or even like another art school? Because I've always said, in my life, I've had a few epiphanies during COVID. I'm sure everyone has. One of the epiphanies is that I also want to take my illustration to a professional level. I want to be a professional illustrator as a part of my creative package. Now, with that being said, I probably would have gone to visual art school if I could do this over again.
Right.
I don't regret my decisions at all. Yeah. But if I had this epiphany sooner in life, if visual art was more of the focus in high school, I definitely would have gone to art school, that art school.
I mean, it's like we said, you don't have to, and like you're sort of doing the independent artist thing by not going to illustration school. You're self-taught. And you're very talented.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And you're good at what you do, and you've put the work in to get even better. and like hone your natural talent.
Daily efforts.
And it's like, you know, you're really a testament to like the notion that if you really put your mind to it and dedicate time to it, you can do these things without an institution, without the support of an institution. That being said, knowing now that you are so passionate about illustration specifically and animation, if you had gone to an animation school or been part of like an illustration program, a visual arts school, you would have had those resources like what theater school gave you. And you would probably be farther along than you are right now.
I'd be sitting here in this chair with you going, you know, in retrospect, I probably should have gone to voice acting school.
Yeah.
Or theater school to learn a bit more.
Exactly.
You know? Like, grass is always greener.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to get bogged about it. But, like, truthfully, and I'm not trying to, like, get depressed or anything, but, like, when I really, like, throw up my passions, it's like, I love voice acting. Of course I do. I'm a voice actor. And I want to be in commercials and cartoons and movies and whatever, right? But if I could make a cartoon or comic book or whatever, like, that would be the shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I'm far more passionate about that artistic endeavor than I ever thought I was. And again, yeah, kind of wish I had the epiphany earlier, but like, what can you do? You have epiphanies when you have them. Exactly. You can't control epiphanies.
And like the path that you go down is how you ultimately wind up at those epiphanies to begin with. So it's probably for the best that you went to theater school and like learned all those things that you didn't want to do so that you could get to that point.
There's truly nothing I change about my life up to this point.
I don't think given the course of your life, you could have hopped, skipped, and jumped over to illustration. Given the environment that you grew up in and the opportunities that you had presented to you at the time, you probably physically could not have hop, skipped, and jumped it. If you went back in time and tried to change it, you wouldn't be able to make it happen.
Oh, especially because I think about my visual arts skill in high school, where it's like I wasn't drawing at all.
Doodling.
I was doodling.
Yeah.
Right? And like, granted, I think that if I can go really far back to when I was like 6 years old, doodling in notebooks and shit, I kind of sort of wish that maybe someone in my life would have been like, he does that a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
Maybe
this instead of hockey.
Yeah.
Maybe this instead of skating.
Yeah.
Maybe this instead of football. You know?
Yeah.
I digress. We're here now, and that's all that matters.
C'est la vie.
But yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just glad that you got there at all. You know? And I think that every artist, I don't think that you can be fully prepared as an artist.
No way.
Like, and this is the thing, like we're talking about theater school. I don't think there's enough schooling in the world. So where you can come out and be like, I am fully equipped to do exactly what I want to do.
I finally have all the skills!
You have to go out and you have to experience life and you have to leave school at some point. That's something I want to tell some of my classmates. You have to leave school at some point. You have to live your life. You have to have those life experiences.
You're talking about one person.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about multiple people.
That was a joke.
I know. No, I can think of at least two people where I'm like, you have to fucking leave school.
So nice.
I know that some of these classes, you know, they sound so sexy, they sound so cool in the title and the description. That's their job. The teachers are literally advertising to you their classes. Like, they're supposed to sound sexy and neat and cool. They're not going to make you any better. You have to go out and make the fucking art. And sometimes that means doing something that school never taught you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Touching a skill that you never would have touched in the classroom at all.
Yeah.
So you're loving this.
No. You said something. You were like, I know these classes can look so sexy. And the first thing that popped in my head was, no, don't leave school. You're so sexy. I've just been laughing about that.
Right.
But I totally agree.
Yeah,
you do,
yeah.
At the end of the day, an institution is not a professional environment in terms of like literally what you'll be doing when you become a professional artist. And it's important to leave those institutions behind at some point, take the skills you've learned and apply them in a real world scenario.
You literally don't know what you want to make when you're in school because you're being told what to make when you're in school all of the time. So you can't form, I mean, like, this is just my theory. This isn't proven fact, but I think that you cannot know what kind of art you want to make if you stay in school because you are surrounded by people who have already formed their own opinion about what they want to make, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you're going to teach art, you're going to teach it through your lens, and that's all you have to offer, and that's really valuable, but it's not the only scope. You have to then leave the institution and go out and find your own scope that you want to make art through. You know? Sorry about it. Yeah. Sorry about
Fucking cry about it.
Don't take out another loan. It's a trap.
Pussy.
It's a huge trap.
OSAP is a lie.
It's a trap is what it is.
I never had to take out OSAP, actually.
Neither did I, fortunately enough.
Yeah.
Also, like, I know that this, like, UW is it's a good school. But it's not known for its theater program.
No, they thought we were a
so
club.
the theater, yeah, a lot of places on campus thought we were a club and not something you can get a degree in. So it wasn't that expensive.
it was
one of the cheaper programs on campus, but very, very flush with knowledge and excellent faculty and staff.
Very,
Everybody
totally
who
agree.
works at UW right now, you are lucky to have them and be teaching and be learning underneath them. You're very lucky. So, that's on that. But yeah, what was the original question? I'm trying to.
Where would you be?
Where would you be?
Or would you think that you would have done something else if you didn't go to theater school?
Oh, right.
Like you mentioned your social
I already
work.
said social work. I would have schlepped it through social work. Yeah. And been miserable and broke.
For sure.
Very broke.
I mean, probably, because you were going to, what, U of T?
Ryerson. Yeah.
That's what it was, Ryerson.
I mean, it's a good social work school, but I simply wouldn't be good at it. So I wouldn't be making a lot of money in it because I'm not exactly good at it.
Sam, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you decided to go to theater school, what irked you on that? What prompted you? What inspired you to go to theater school?
I was, like I said, going to social work school in Ryerson, hating my life. And it was funny because like that was the first time, and like first year of university is tough for everybody because you get smacked with the hard truth that the grading is much harder and it's a lot more difficult to get the grades that you're used to getting in school, in like high school, even like middle and elementary school.
If you've been schlepping it this far.
Yeah. I was a solid like B- to A student all throughout university, and then all of a sudden I was like a C+ student, and that was tough.
It's a blow to the ego.
So when I was approaching my work, my essays, group projects, all of that stuff, I was finding it really hard to do any homework. Like even the most confusing assignment in high school, I could apply myself and I would eventually find my way and I would produce something that could get me, a 75. I would stare at my homework assignments in university in first year and be like, I don't know. I don't know how, like you have to take intro to political science, your first year at Ryerson. And like, we had an essay, that we had to write about something to do with politics. And I was like, I don't know. Like I looked at the topics, like the topics that we could choose from to write our essay about. And I was like, I don't know where to begin on any of these. I don't have any sort of opinion. I don't have any sort of, like stepping stones to begin to do research on. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to look. I don't even know how to ask for help. Like, I don't know what the fuck. I'm looking at this page and it may as well be in another language. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I took like a short stories class that didn't make any sense. And just like I didn't know how to approach the work at all. And I was like, I can't be here. And then a bunch of personal shit happened in my life. Some like family drama went on, and I was like, okay, I'm lost at school. I'm lost at home. I'm in a city. I'm physically lost because I'm in a city that I don't know.
I don't know where I am.
Yeah. And I'm so alone. I don't have anybody that knows me or loves me around to even like just talk to at the end of the day, that that I love or want to talk to. And I have to go home. I have to get out. And I had always loved acting. I knew that acting was always going to be a part of my life, whether I got paid for it or not. I already knew that at that point in my life, but I hadn't given myself the permission to pursue it as a career. And I was like, listen, if there are people schlepping it out through this social work program, like I can schlep it out through acting. Like I can find a way to be successful and to be happy in acting because I love it. I can't find a way. Like I can't find an inkling of a career path in social work. I'm not discovering anything. I'm not learning anything. I'm not finding out new things about myself at all. I'm just miserable. And I would rather like go into this career that has always been told to me, like described to me as like what you do if you want to be broke for the rest of your life and have no money, and try and find a way to make a living and be happy, than schlep it out, maybe make 5 digits a year and be kind of sort of comfortable. Like I'll be a miserable person if I follow through with this. So I knew, luckily enough, I'm from a city where there are 3 admirable post-secondary institutions, being UW, Laurier, and Conestoga College. And I was like, I am going to look whichever one has an acting program. I will apply to it, and I'm going to it. And UW was the only one that had an acting or like theater program. The Laurier doesn't and Conestoga doesn't. So I applied, and I got in, and I left.
And then you met me.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I don't suggest doing that. I got very lucky that UW is as good as it is for a theater as a theater program. Because I did no research.
Oh, I
didn't do any research into the program. What was expected of you? I didn't go on any campus tours. I didn't meet any, faculty members before going. I did zero research.
You were literally like a girl in a New City comedy drama, like making rash decisions because you had a bad experience.
I mean, like
you are literally that.
Listen, there was literal trauma behind my decision. Like it's not like Legally Blonde where my boyfriend broke up with me and I decided to go to Harvard.
It's legitimate. I'm not saying that part is not what I'm talking about.
I did have to get out of the situation that I was in at that point. I really did.
You really did.
But I probably should have done a little bit more research. I got lucky that UW is as good as it is, but I probably should have done a little bit more research. I mean, everybody should do research when it comes to post-secondary institution you're going to spend thousands of dollars at.
UW was my first choice.
Oh, really?
My number one choice, yeah.
Wow, okay, so...
Actually, well, that's not true, but yeah.
Smooth. I was going to say, because you had accepted to a different, or you wanted to go to a different one, but then you didn't get into it.
Yeah. Well, I applied to 3 schools. I applied to Queens at the Bader Institution, which is at the Hurst Monsieur, which is a castle in England. And I did not get into that because my grades weren't good enough. And then I also got into Brock. I didn't even really want to apply to Brock, to be perfectly honest with you, but my brother went to Brock. And mom was kind of just like, well, why don't you just like apply there as a backup? Just like have it, like whatever. Because like you're likely going to get in. No offense to people who went to Brock. It is bad advice, and I wish I would have applied somewhere else. Yeah. However, I did then apply to the University of Waterloo, and the only thing I heard back from was Brock. And little insight to my time in high school. I mentioned before in previous podcasts, like I was very influenced by people in high school. Like
you didn't think for yourself a whole lot.
Not a lot. No, a lot of people would be like, "Hey, like you went to." You're big, so you're good at play football. So play football. Oh, you're really good at acting. So like. Get into theater and like do shows there. And like for me, like going to theater school was just sort of the next logical step, which is as to why I looked into theater programs. And because I'd only gotten into Brock and like with my parents, God bless them, like not going to post-secondary like really wasn't an option. And if Brock was the only place I got into, then Brock was the place I'd be going to, right? Now they wouldn't have forced me to go, but my mentality at the time was very much like I'm going to have to go to Brock, right? Because, like, you're 18 or 17 and, like, you're being offered choice and, like, own personal thought for the first time in your life. Yeah. And really, and you don't really know how to say, like, I don't want to go to this program. Yeah. And if I don't get into these other schools, like, I just want to apply somewhere else. Yeah. Right? Like
you don't have the autonomy, the sense of autonomy to say that.
No, not at all. Yeah. So I was really worried. I was really genuinely scared that I was just going to go to Brock and like, listen, I'm sure if I went to Brock it would have been fine. But like.
But you wouldn't have met me.
You wouldn't have met you. And no offense to Brock, but I wasn't impressed by their theater program. Yeah. I went and did a thing there and it was very like summer campy and wasn't what I wanted, like at all. But I was really sold on UW because I went to the university fair. I told the story before, but I'll keep it short. I met a man who claimed to work for the theater department, who sold me on the theater program, who I never saw again. Who definitely does not work for the theater program. Yeah. And told me about things that does not exist within the theater program. And yeah, I got into Waterloo like a week or so before like you really needed to cement where you're going. Yeah. And the rest is history. Yeah. And I love my time at UW. I think like the last year and a half or so was quite negative, if I can be perfectly honest. But that's no fault of the theater program.
No. The reason why you had a bad time is because you didn't spend any time in the theater department.
Yep. So. Yep. And my sense of like my sense of self-worth and other things just got really skewed and fucked with.
Yeah.
Because I was doing very poorly
Yeah.
in those they're called breadth requirements for those
Yeah.
who don't know. They're like Psych 101, Social 101, blah, 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 blah.
Electives.
That you have to take if you're in an art program at university, which is bullshit. But whatever. You know, I was doing really, really poorly, and that was tough. But yeah, that's the reason why I went to university, honestly. It was because, like, well, what else am I supposed to do?
Right.
Like, I know that's kind of flippant, and that's kind of like, oh, Cameron, don't you think you should have done something you want to do? I said, well, at the time, that is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
At 26, I can look back and say, like, it's not that I didn't want to do it. It's just that I actually had very little choice or thought in the matter.
Yeah.
Like, much less than I probably should have.
Yeah.
But grass always greener.
Yeah, and like, you know,
It's a fucking idiot.
it's a lesson that you had to learn, and that's where you learned it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you can't beat yourself up about it forever.
Well, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, what are
I
you
mean,
gonna do?
I'm 25 now,
We're here.
and I'm making it work.
Yeah.
Making the dream work. So
Exactly.
working at DreamWorks,
I'm ultimately happy with
making Shrek movies.
making Shrek 5.
Dude, the Shrekkening.
The Shrekkening. The Shrekalog.
The Shrek Vengeance.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
The
Shrekalog.
Yeah.
That took me a second. That was
Electric Boogaloo.
good.
Yeah, no. You know, like you wind up where you wind up. I'm just happy that the place isn't a shithole. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I got very lucky. I could have easily freaked out and been like, what will accept me? Brock University, and then I'm at Brock.
Yeah.
You know,
I would actually go as far to say that happens to a lot of people.
do you wind up going to Brock for theater?
No. I mean, just in general, like the idea of like you apply. Everyone, when they
Mm-hmm.
apply to university, and I do think everyone, if you're going to university, typically you apply to like 3 or so schools that you really want to go to,
Yep.
and then like 7 burner schools that you could like give or take.
Yeah.
Now, I say burner schools very loosely. Someone's burner school is going to be someone else's dream school, and someone's dream school is going to be someone's burner school. That's the way it fucking works.
Mm-hmm.
However, you should really not do that. You should really only apply to 4 universities you really want to go to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you don't get into any of them, well, then you...
And I mean, like, applications are expensive. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, the more narrowing down you can do, the better.
Yeah. If I had to do my time again, I probably would have, well, because I was also so nervous as a kid because, like my parents are always like, you could look into, you know, other provinces. Like, you don't necessarily have to stay in Ontario. But I, at the time, didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, maybe I would have liked to do that, you know, at 25. But, like, at 18, move to some other province. Lived with my parents my whole life.
Mm-mm.
Like, just last week, I figured out that I don't want to play football anymore. Yeah. And that was a big thing.
And now you want me to move to Alberta?
Yeah, really.
Can't do it.
I'm just slowly dawning on myself that I do a lot of things I don't like because people tell me to do them. And you want me to go to a different province?
Yeah. You want me to leave my security blanket? I don't think so.
No, I'm Linus in this scenario.
Yeah.
I got my blanket and my thumb in my ass, and it's comfortable in there.
Like Linus.
Yeah,
with his thumb in his ass.
Just like Linus and Peanuts. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Totally.
They actually changed that for the movie, and fans were really upset. Why isn't his thumb in his ass?
Canonically, his thumb is in his ass. If you check the comics, it really is there.
Everyone's always like, hey, Linus, and he's like, hey, guys. What's up? It's like, wow, that was really up there, eh?
Wow, yeah. Linus can really stick it up there.
Linus, you have a clean ass.
Well,
Bidets.
I put my thumb in it all the time, so
Homemade bidets,
may as well make it sanitary.
Here's the thing, Sam. With theater school, which is kind of weird, right? Is that theater and art school is still school, and you have to be graded. Mm-hmm. And there's a big conversation constantly going on in these art schools of how you grade art. Mm-hmm. Pardon me, how would you grade art?
I mean...
Do you think you can do it fairly?
No. I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either, to be honest with you.
I think you can do the best with what you can do given the scope that you have on art.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just... If I were to improve it, I would just say, like, make it more transparent for art students that... like a grade that you get isn't gospel. It's just that like this is an institution and it operates on a system, and that system requires that you crunch numbers into it. So I got to give you a number, but don't think that you're bad at art because I didn't give you a good number. All I can do is look at your art through my lens, you know, and you know, it's my experiences and my personal tastes and, you know, my thoughts on your art that I can't help but have. It's impossible. Don't take it personally. You know, like something that I also appreciate about theater school is it gave me a thick skin. I can take constructive criticism.
Constructive cynicism, Kane.
I can take constructive criticism and not associate it with my being, my whole being.
Yeah, you don't get offended anymore.
I can be like, okay, so this has to do with my work.
Yeah.
And my work is not my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's not who I am as a person. I mean, I put who I am as a person into my work, but it doesn't encapsulate my entire being. So when you criticize it, like, it's kind of like I'm putting up like a fake energy field for you to feed off of, and then the real me is like behind it. And I highly encourage art students to do that with their art whenever somebody is grading your stuff at school. Just like put it up, just don't take it personally. It's a school, you got to be graded, but your professors are not the gospel as to how good as to how good a piece of art is.
No matter how much they might think.
No matter how much some of them honestly think that they are. Yeah. And you will meet those people. You will meet those professors who think that they are gods.
Anywhere, as a matter of fact.
Like God's gift to art. I am not talking about UW. I know a bunch of people from a bunch of different theater schools, and I like keeping it super nebulous. Like, it's just a fact. There are professors who think that they're God's gift to art, and that their lens, because of their credentials, is the best lens that you could possibly see through. And aren't you so lucky that I get to gaze upon your work and tell you what's good and what's not, because I'm going to make you the next best artist. They're not. You make you the next best artist. It's your perspective and honing in on what makes you unique, and then how you project that out into the world that makes you a good artist.
Yeah.
Your professor had their time in the field, or has their time in the field, to do whatever the fuck they want to do. They can always do that. You're the only artist like you that you can be. So don't let a grade, don't let the grade happen, but don't let a grade define whether or not you make art again, how you make art again. Take constructive criticism for what it's worth, but don't let one person change your style. It's not how it works.
Yeah. And because I think the hard part, and you sort of touched upon this a little bit, but the hard part with grading art in an institution scenario is that art is in no way, shape, or form objective, right? Like, you can grade a math paper or a science paper from the objectiveness of what is true based on math and science. Art is not that whatsoever. I do think that there are some things like that are more concrete, where it's like if you're writing a script, or in visual art, if you're working on line art, like, you can be, I'm not going to use the word objective, you can be concrete and be like, okay, so this doesn't work because of X, Y, Z. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. And if you would apply these things, your work would get better. Yeah. And I would encourage young art students to think like that when they get into certain institutions, to be more like, okay, well, I am here to learn. Yeah. So there's no point in getting offended when my professor, who is a career artist, tells me that something is wrong with my work.
And like putting up a wall every time somebody says something about your art. That's not what I'm saying.
I know a lot of people like that. I mean, I even suffer from that from time to time. Yeah. But you come out on the other side. Yeah. And then you learn that criticism is the golden milk from the teat of life. You need it.
I don't like that analogy. But
well, I did say it. Yeah, he's way out of line, but he's right.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I crave criticism, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. For sure. Like, like your example of a script was a really good example. Like, so it's fair criticism if somebody looks at your script and says, so, the stakes don't feel high enough here. You need more tension in your story, because it's just like the payoff is not big enough for me. That's good constructive criticism.
This is bad and you're bad.
Like don't if you go to film school and you write a spy movie and your professor hates the spy genre, and is like, this is terrible, no one's gonna want to see this. If your professor says nobody watches spy movies anymore, fuck that guy.
Yeah, no, that guy's an idiot.
Fuck that guy.
I'll watch your spy movie.
You're wrong. Like, anybody will watch anything. If I'm trying to think, like, I mean, for what it's worth, like, I know this is wrong, but like the Marvel Cinematic Universe draws in all kinds of people. You think it's just nerds, but like we saw your super hot neighbor at Civil War. Like, or it's fucking like, it's just like anybody can watch anything at any time if you make it good enough. If you appeal to the human spirit well enough, it doesn't matter what genre or how what your art looks like. If people can associate a good feeling with it, then they'll watch it and they'll consume it. Who cares what it looks like? Don't worry about people telling you, oh, nobody makes art like that anymore. Nobody makes art that looks like that anymore. Or this is too mainstream, or this is too avant-garde, or this is too blah, blah, blah. Like, so make the art you want to see. You're giving me this look like I'm fucking crazy, and I kind of hate it because I'm making sense.
I not for a second there, Sam, I really was struggling with what you were talking about.
The superhero genre thing was a bad example. I couldn't think of one fast enough,
it's fine.
But what I'm saying is that if someone tells you that your art isn't good because quote unquote nobody sees it, or it's too mainstream, or it's been done once before already, don't listen to them.
Right. And that's perfectly valid. That makes perfect sense.
Good constructive criticism, good grading comes from, I see what you're trying to do and this is how I think you can execute this idea better.
Right.
Not don't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If your point is that like constructive criticism is a skill and that you learn to give and take it, then I totally agree.
Yeah. But don't if you go through art school and you're a straight B student, it doesn't mean you're a straight B artist.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't matter.
No, there's going to be someone out there. Listen, if you're an artist, you put your stuff out there on the internet or wherever, you understand that there's going to be one person somewhere on this planet who's going to look at your art and say, that is the best thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Actually, though.
Yeah.
I'm not even fucking around. Like, that happens.
Totally.
And you can talk all the shit you want saying you're this, that, and the other thing. You're not good enough. But I'm here to tell you that you are.
Totally.
Go to theater school.
Yeah.
You might enjoy it. Or not.
If you can access it, I recommend it. It's a good experience, Another thing that we didn't touch upon exactly is how important forming a circle of colleagues is. School is a great way to streamline that. It's a great way to find people who also think like you and, form creative partnerships, as evidenced by this channel. I met Cameron at theater school. We had, not only do we make a good, couple in our personal lives, but we're also on the same page creatively, always have been, even before we were romantic partners. And I wouldn't have found that if I didn't go to theater school.
There you go.
So making friends is also the note that I'm going to end this on, because that's a nice thing to end.
What's that song that plays, that soul song that plays at the end of like a lot of like black-led movies? You know what I'm talking about?
Soul song.
It's like, damn it. It's like
Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
But I am hopeful. Yes, I am.
Hopeful by Faith Hill.
Yeah,
the one that's on TikTok all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Hopeful by Faith Hill.
Like, that should be the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
It's just you being like, and I never would have meant that. And it's like, I am hopeful for today, hopeful for today. And, and it's like, Sam went on to be a professional writer and like write many Academy Award winning movies. And it's like, Cameron became a garbage man and was crushed by the truck one night when no one, he was picked up by the arm and no one was looking, and he was crushed by the trash compactor.
The city of Mississauga still can't find his body.
Yeah.
If anybody has any information on the whereabouts of Cameron's remains, please contact 416.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, this is the end of the podcast, everyone, so thank you so much for listening. But I want to say, on that note, don't you think of those movies that there's always one that's like, oh, wow. Like, there's always one who's like, God, that character, like, died a gruesome death.
Didn't.
Like,
yeah.
And it's always like the
Didn't
one...
work out for that guy.
It's like the class clown, where it's like, Charles got a crippling cocaine addiction and fell off a cruise liner. And it's like, oh my God. Like, everyone else went on to get, like, PhDs. Like, the main character's a doctor. Like, what the fuck?
Todd fell off a cruise ship, and to this day is the only known case of being eaten by dolphins known to man.
He's eaten alive by dolphins.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to the Chill Spot podcast.
Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you gleaned something from it, and I hope I get no phone calls from the University of Waterloo.
I hope I don't get an angry email 3 months from now. Like, hey, bitch, I heard you're cast. Thought it was great. I subscribed. Just like you should at home. You can follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Podbean, and YouTube. We upload the Chill Spot Podcast every Tuesday at 3 p.m. On YouTube. That goes up a little bit earlier on streaming services. If you like this so damn much, you could always follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/chillspot.
Join a stream sometime, why don't you?
Where we stream 3 times a week.
I mean, like, because it's a stream, we might just talk shit on university and then delete the VOD right away.
Oh, we might talk shit on you personally when you show up in our chat. But we stream 3 times a week, 2 evenings and 1 morning. So be sure to come do that. You can join our Discord and chat with us there. We're available everywhere. We are super available for a couple of introverts. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Or night.
Hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music